morning, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to the interregional ministerial meeting on the theme Enhancing Africa's Sports Governance, Fostering Interregional Cooperation and Convergence for Sports Values, Ethics and Integrity. May I at this point respectfully invite all of you to please take your seats, and we wait for the arrival of His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia. Thank you very much. Police band. I am pleased to announce that translation is happening. In Channel 1 we have English, and Channel 2 is French. I once again welcome you to the interregional ministerial meeting here in Banjul. At this point, I want to respectfully invite the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Bakari Y. Baji, to come and take the podium. Honorable Minister, please.
Good morning, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, and welcome to this meeting, our invited guest. Before we officially start, may I invite the Gambia Police Band to lead us in the national anthem. Your Excellencies. Thank you very much, Gambia Police Band. And as customary in the Gambia, and I guess in so many other countries, before we start events, we would normally have our prayers. May I invite all of us to have our individual prayers. Amen. And thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Mr. Mohamed B.S. Jallo, our dear brother and friend, Mr. Matarba, chairperson of the COP9 Bureau. We have our friend, Mr. Deli, the Executive Secretary of the COP9 Secretariat in Paris, the African Union Commissioner, the Ambassador of ECOWAS, distinguished ministers from the Gambia who are present here, ministers from the continent of Africa and beyond, and our invited guests from WADA and USADA, and all of you, our governors, executive coordinators from the Gambia, ladies and gentlemen from our sport associations in the Gambia and across Africa, our invited guests of the media, both local and international, all other protocols respectfully observed. Ladies and gentlemen, I would want to start by welcoming first His Excellency the Vice President and all of our invited guests to this very important meeting, the interregional ministerial meeting focusing on enhancing Africa's sports governance, fostering interregional cooperation and convergence for sports values, ethics, and integrity, happening here at the Sadaura Karabajaura International Conference Center in Bijilo. Your Excellency, this meeting, as you might have already been briefed, is conceived through several consultations between the Ministry of Youth and Sports and between the Anti-Doping Secretariat in Paris, through myself and the chairperson, but of course been elevated to the Office of the President, where we receive approval to convene the African ministers in what would be the second ever meeting on anti-doping held in the African continent through UNESCO. Excellency, on that note, I am thrilled to welcome all of you, and I would like to share my sincere gratitude to the President of the Republic for accepting for the Gambia to host this meeting. But through yourself, Your Excellency, we want to extend our appreciation to the government of the Gambia for making available the necessary resources for us to host our colleagues from the continent, and again demonstrating support by joining us today, not just you, but some other cabinet ministers. Your Excellency, this meeting marks a key milestone in the history of sports in the Gambia, and it reinforces the strong commitment of the Gambian government to promote ethical standards of sports, both in terms of practice, management, and overall governance in the Gambia, and as well as across the continent, bringing together key actors in sports development and governance on the African continent. Today's meeting presents us a unique opportunity to engage in a much-needed dialogue on addressing the challenges faced by the effect of doping in sports. This is a menace not just in the African continent, but all over the world. It is a global phenomenon that has hindered the development of sports and the advancement of our athletes, who on an occasional basis are coerced into using drugs as a way of enhancing their strength. Your Excellency, in acknowledgement that our shared vision and common goal to strengthen sports governance is heavily dependent on the ability to take action against doping, today we are provided with a platform to explore, to exchange ideas, and to come up with a common position that will help guide our intervention at country level as well as at the continental level. The strategies and actions agreed upon today will lay a foundation for us to strengthen sports governance at the continental level as well as at our country level. The outcome of today's prestigious meeting will consolidate our collective gains, promote continental unity and collaboration in sports, and most importantly, reinforce the vision we all share as ministers and as organizations that work in the area of doping and general protection of the integrity of our sports. I would want to conclude by expressing my special thanks to all the ministers who have taken time to travel from their various countries, both within the West African region, as well as East Africa and Southern Africa and Central Africa. Here today, we have a few ministers and deputy ministers, as well as representative of ministers whom we believe will take the outcome of their ministers. But most importantly, we appreciate the collaboration that have happened between the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Anti-Doping Secretariat. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, these two institutions have worked together in the last 2 months in putting in place all the logistics necessary to be able to convene this very important and, may I add, successful meeting. And we would want to say, Mr. Daly and the chairperson, thank you very much for having collaborated with our staffs at the ministry to put in place all the logistics that is necessary to host everyone here. But I'll also not be fair if I don't extend the same appreciation to the organizing committee that we have put in place at the local level, chaired by the Deputy Permanent Secretary, Mr. Musambai, and supported by our Permanent Secretary and UNESCO, the health sector, and the security, and everyone. In general terms, we are grateful to every individual that have put in place efforts to ensure that this meeting becomes successful today. Ladies and gentlemen, formally welcome all of you to the Gambia, and we want to proceed with the meeting by inviting the chairperson of the 9th COPE Bureau, Mr. Matarba, who was the former Minister of Sports of Senegal. Mr. President, you're welcome.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Excellence, Monsieur le
Your
Vice-Président
Excellency,
de la République
the Vice President
Gambie.
of the Republic of the Gambia,
Monsieur le Ministre de la Jeunesse et des
the
Sports,
Honorable Minister
de
of
Gambie,
Youth and
notre
Sports
cher ami et frère,
of the Gambia,
Bakary Badji,
my dear brother and friend, Bakary
Madame la
Badji,
Commissaire de l'Union
the
Africaine,
Commissioner of the
Notre
African
grande sœur,
Union,
Minata
our
Samate
big
Sessouma,
sister, Aminata Samate Dousouma,
Madame la représentante
the
régionale
regional
de la CEDEAO,
representative of ECOWAS,
Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres,
distinguished ministers,
Excellences et distingués
Your
invités.
Excellencies and distinguished guests,
Bien évidemment, Monsieur le
Obviously,
Vice-Président, Monsieur le Ministre,
Honorable Vice President,
Monsieur le Secrétaire exécutif,
the Executive Secretary,
Marcelin Dali,
Marcelin Dali,
chers amis,
my dear friends
frères du comité d'organisation
and brothers of the
de cette grande
organizing
union,
committee of this
côté même de côté de la Gambie et du
important
côté de l'UNESCO.
union from the Gambia, but also
Chers
from
amis
UNESCO.
journalistes,
Our dear brothers, the journalists,
je voudrais aussi
I
singulièrement
would
saluer la
also
présence de
particularly
votre représentant
acknowledge the
de
presence
l'Agence mondiale antidopage,
of the representative of the World Anti-Doping
Chers invités.
Agency. Distinguished
C'est un
ladies
honneur
and
pour moi de
gentlemen,
m'adresser à
it
vous
is an honor for me
aujourd'hui
today
en tant que
to
président
talk to
du
you
bureau de
as
la
the
9e session
president
de la
of the bureau
conférence
of the 9th
des parties
session
à la
of the
Convention
conference
internationale
of the
contre le
parties
dopage dans le
to
sport.
the International Convention Against Doping
Permettez-moi
in
d'abord
Sports. Please allow me
exprimer
from the
ma
onset
gratitude
to express
au
my
gouvernement
gratitude
de la Gambie,
to the government of the Gambia,
en particulier à son
especially
Excellence,
to His
Monsieur le
Excellency
Président Adama Barrow,
President Adama Barrow.
pour l'organisation de cette
I would like to
réunion
express my
essentielle
gratitude to them for the convening
et à
of this
l'UNESCO pour son
essential
engagement
meeting,
indéfectible
and I would also
en
like to
faveur de
thank
la gouvernance
UNESCO
mondiale
for
du
its
sport.
unwavering commitment to the global governance in the field
L'engagement du
of
président
sports.
Adama Barrow
The commitment of President Adama Barrow
nous a marqués
has been quite
parce
exemplary
que c'est grâce à lui,
because it is thanks to His Excellency the
avec son
President
accord,
and
que
thanks
cette
to his
réunion-là
agreement
a pu se tenir
that this
aujourd'hui.
very meeting is being convened here today.
C'est l'occasion de
It is
remercier
an
notre frère
opportunity also
et
to
notre cher
thank
ami,
our
Monsieur le ministre de la
brother,
Jeunesse et des Sports,
the Honorable
Badji,
Minister of Youth and Sports
son
of the
ouverture
Gambia,
et
Mr.
son
Badji,
engagement
for his commitment, his
à
openness
matérialiser les
to
instructions qui ont
ensure
été données par
that
son
the
Excellence.
instructions given by His Excellency the President are
C'est extrêmement
materialized.
important parce que c'est la
This
deuxième
is
fois,
important
pour ne
because
pas dire la troisième fois,
it is
qu'une
the
telle réunion
third
se
time
tienne
that such a meeting is being convened
après
in
les deux
Africa.
réunions du Sénégal.
After the two meetings
Nous voici
convened
aujourd'hui
in
en
Senegal, we are here
Et ça,
today
c'est à
in
saluer.
the Gambia,
Monsieur
and
le
this should
ministre,
be
au nom
commended.
du bureau de la COP,
Honorable Minister, on behalf of the
voudrais
Bureau of the
pour
COP,
saluer très sincèrement
I would like
votre
sincerely
féliciter.
to thank you for that gesture.
Le sport possède un
Sports
potentiel
has
incomparable
an
pour unifier,
incomparable potential
inspirer
to
et
unify,
responsabiliser.
to inspire, and
Il
empower
constitue un pilier
everybody.
du
It is a
développement
pillar
socio-économique,
of socio-economic
un
development,
catalyseur de
a
paix
catalyst for peace,
et un phare de valeurs
and
éthiques.
a beacon of ethical
Aujourd'hui,
values. Today,
alors que nous sommes réunis
as we meet here
sous le thème de
under the
l'amélioration de la
theme
gouvernance du
of
sport en Afrique,
improving sports governance in Africa,
nous entreprenons
today
une mission
we are
collective
embarking
pour renforcer
on a
l'intégrité
collective mission
et
to
les valeurs du
strengthen
sport
the
sur
integrity
notre continent et
and the
au-delà.
values of sport on our
La
continent
contribution
and
de l'Afrique
beyond.
à l'écosystème sportif mondial
Africa's contribution
est immense.
to the global sports
pour notre
ecosystem
jeunesse
is immense.
est une force
Our
et un
youth
moteur clé
is a strength
de cet
and a
écosystème.
key driver of this
Cependant, pour
ecosystem.
réaliser pleinement
However,
le
to
potentiel
realize
de
the
nos
full
jeunes,
potentialities of our youth,
nous devons
we
nous assurer
must
que le
ensure
sport est géré
that
avec
sports is
intégrité,
managed with
équité
integrity,
et inclusivité.
fairness, and inclusiveness.
Je crois que cette réunion
I believe
représente
that
une
this
étape
meeting
essentielle
represents an important
vers
step
des changements importants
towards important
et nécessaires
and
pour
necessary
encadrer
changes
et guider le
to
développement du sport en
supervise
Afrique.
and guide development of
Ainsi, nous
sports
pouvons agir
in
selon la
Africa.
fameuse
Thus, we
description
can
de
act
Julius
according to
Nyerere
Julius Nyerere's
de
famous
la démocratie
description of
dans les
democracy
villages africains
in
où
African
les sages
villages,
se réunissent
where the wise
sous un
men
grand
gather
arbre à palabres
under a large tree
jusqu'à parvenir
until
à un accord.
an agreement is arrived at.
Par le biais de la Convention
Through
antidopage de
the
l'UNESCO,
UNESCO anti-doping
presque toutes les
convention,
nations du monde ont
almost
reconnu la
all
nécessité de
the
sauvegarder
nations of the world
l'intégrité
have
du sport.
recognized the need to safeguard
l'Afrique,
the integrity
Ce n'est pas
of
seulement
sports.
une question technique
For Africa, it is not just a
ou de
technical
conformité,
or
c'est un
compliance
impératif
matter. On the
développemental.
contrary, it is a development imperative.
Je suis fier de
I
constater
am
que notre
proud
région se
to see
positionne à
that our
l'avant-garde
region
des
is at the
discussions et
forefront
des initiatives
of
mondiales
global
visant à promouvoir
discussions and initiatives aimed at
bureau de
promoting
la COP
the above principles.
travaille
The Bureau
actuellement
of the Conference of
sur
Parties,
plusieurs
the
initiatives
COP,
parallèles
is currently
pour
working on
harmoniser
several parallel
l'écosystème
initiatives
mondial de
to
l'intégrité du
harmonize
sport,
the global sports
offrant
integrity
ainsi
ecosystem.
au gouvernement,
In so doing,
aux
providing
organisations
governments
sportives et
to
aux
sports
parties prenantes
organizations and
les
stakeholders
outils
with
pour
the
agir
tools
de manière
act
décisive
in a
et
decisive
cohérente.
and consistent manner.
Lors de notre récente réunion
our
à Tallinn,
Written
en Estonie,
meeting in Tallinn, in
en décembre
Estonia,
dernier, nous avons
last
pris
December.
des mesures pour
At that
optimiser
meeting, we took steps to
et renforcer
optimize
le
and
mécanisme financier
strengthen
de
the
la Convention.
financial mechanism of the convention.
Son fonds est une ressource
Its
essentielle
fund, the
qui a
funds of this
soutenu,
convention, is an
plus de
essential resource
250
that has
projets
supported
dans le
more than
monde,
250
dont plus de
projects
70
worldwide,
projets
including more
réalisés
than 70 projects
ou en
carried
cours
out
en Afrique.
or ongoing in
Le
Africa.
Fonds a constamment
The fund
prouvé
has constantly
son importance comme
demonstrated
moteur
its
d'amélioration
importance as a driving
de
force
l'éducation
for improving
antidopage, de
anti-doping
renforcement
education,
des capacités
capacity building,
d'élaboration des politiques
policy
et de
making,
consolidation
and
des
also
cadres de
building
gouvernance.
governance framework.
J'invite tous les
I will
gouvernements
now
à
urge
continuer à
all the
investir dans
governments
ce
to
fonds
continue to invest in this essential
essentiel
fund,
en veillant à ce qu'aucun
ensuring
État
that
ne
no
reste pour compte.
state is left
Un
behind.
écosystème fort
A strong
a besoin
ecosystem
que tous ces acteurs soient
needs
forts.
that all its stakeholders
Chers
have to
ministres,
be strong. Honorable
L'Afrique a illustré
ministers,
son leadership en
Africa
utilisant
has
le sport pour le
illustrated its
développement.
leadership by using sport for
La
development.
conférence ministérielle,
The
le sport
ministerial
change la donne,
conference, I quote,
tenue
sport
au siège de
changes
l'UNESCO
the
à
game.
Paris, la veille
End
des
of
Jeux
quote.
olympiques
Held
de
at
Paris,
UNESCO headquarters in Paris on the
a
eve of
mis
the
en
Olympic Games,
exerce, en évidence l'engagement
the
de la région
region's commitment
à utiliser le
to
sport comme outil
using
de diplomatie.
sport as a tool for
Les
diplomacy.
propositions issues de ce
The
dialogue,
proposals emanating from that dialogue,
comme les centres régionaux d'excellence
just like the
sportive
regional
et les modèles
sports
d'investissement
centers of
adaptés
excellence
au
and the
contexte
investment models
africain,
adapted to the African
mettent en
context,
évidence les
all the
besoins
above
des
highlight the
gouvernements africains
needs for African
et les
governments
capacités de l'UNESCO
and
d'accompagnement
UNESCO's capacity
pour l'innovation
to stop
et la collaboration.
innovation and collaboration.
Pourtant, comme l'a
Yet,
souligné le système de suivi de la
The
Convention
monitoring system
antidopage,
of the anti-doping
les
convention has
défis
pointed
subsistent.
out challenges still remain.
Les rapports nationaux soumis à la
The
conférence des
national
parties
reports
présentent une
submitted to
situation
the conference
complexe
of
en Afrique.
parties present a complex
Des
situation,
lacunes
in Gambia,
dans les législations et politiques
gaps in the
à l'échelle
legislation
nationale
and policies
et
at
des
the national
incohérences
level,
entre les cadres
and
existants à
inconsistencies
l'échelle
between existing
régionale.
frameworks at the regional
Ces
level.
incohérences compromettent
These
un développement efficace et
inconsistencies
harmonieux.
jeopardize
Pour y
effective
remédier
and
et
harmonious
adopter
development.
des
To
approches
remedy the
communes
situation
en
and to
matière
adopt
de gouvernance publique du sport,
common approaches when it comes
témoignant de
to
notre
governance in
détermination
sports
collective
testifies
à cet
to
égard.
our collective determination
Nous
to achieve
devons
the above.
analyser nos
We
besoins
need to analyze our needs,
pour réformer nos cadres
our needs
de
to
gouvernance
reform
du sport
our sports
au
governance
niveau
framework
domestique,
at the
mais
domestic
aussi au
level,
niveau
but
mondial.
also at the global level.
Le travail en cours pour renforcer
The
l'impact de la
ongoing
Convention
work to strengthen
antidopage
the impact of the
en tant que
anti-doping
droit
convention
international
as
public
a
et
public
primordial.
international law is paramount.
La participation active de
The
notre continent
active participation
dans ce
of
processus
our
est
continent in this
impérative.
process is imperative.
Nous avons l'opportunité
We
de
have the
façonner le
opportunity
futur de la
to shape the
Convention
future of the convention
pour un écosystème mondial
for
solide
a solid,
où
a
chacun
strong
joue son
global
rôle
ecosystem
pleinement.
where everyone plays their role
L'éducation et
fully.
la sensibilisation doivent
Education
également
and awareness
être des
raising
pierres angulaires
must also
de
be
notre stratégie
cornerstones
en
of
Afrique.
our strategy in Africa.
L'éducation préventive est essentielle
Preventive education
pour
is
favoriser
crucial
une culture de
to foster
conformité
a culture
et de
of
comportement
compliance
éthique.
and ethical behavior.
En perspective de la
In
prochaine
perspective of the
COP10,
next COP,
marquera aussi le
this
20e
also will
anniversaire
mark
de la
the
Convention.
20th anniversary
Cet événement
of the
constitue une
convention.
opportunité
This
pour
event is
réfléchir
an opportunity to reflect
sur nos
on
réalisations
our
et
achievements
définir une
and also
vision
to
audacieuse
define
pour
a
l'avenir.
bold vision for the future.
J'invite tous les États
I would like to
africains
urge all African
à s'engager
states
activement
to
dans la COP
actively engage
afin que
in
nos voix
the
façonnent
COP
l'agenda
so that
mondial.
our voices shape the global agenda.
Mesdames et messieurs les ministres,
Honorable
Excellences,
ministers, your excellencies,
Distinguished
distinguished ladies and gentlemen,
saisissons ce moment
let us
pour
seize
réaffirmer
this
notre engagement en
moment
faveur
to
des valeurs
reaffirm our
de l'éthique
commitment
et de
to the values,
l'intégrité du
ethics, and integrity of sport.
Travaillons ensemble
Let us work together
pour que la jeunesse
to
africaine
ensure that the African
ait
youth
l'opportunité de
have the
prospérer
opportunity to
dans un
thrive
environnement qui
in
célèbre
an environment
l'équité,
that celebrates equity,
l'inclusivité et
inclusiveness,
l'excellence.
and excellence.
Continuons
Let
à
us
renforcer
continue
nos
to strengthen our
partenariats
partnerships
à la fois au sein du
both
continent
across the
et à
continent
l'échelle mondiale
and also at the world
pour
scale,
exploiter
with a view
pleinement
to
le
fully
potentiel du
exploiting the
sport
potential of sport
au profit de
for
tous.
the benefit
Je vous remercie
of
de votre
all
attention.
and sundry. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Matarba, for that statement. We will proceed with the statement by our next speaker, who who unfortunately could not travel to join us, and that's Ms. Gabriela Ramos, the Assistant Director General of UNESCO. But she will be doing her address virtually, and we will want to invite Madam Ramos to make her statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I would have really liked to be with you, but complications prevented me to join you. I recognize Vice President Muhammad B.S. Jallow, of course, our Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Bakari Badje, our dear friend, the President of the COP9, Minister Matar Ba, and the African Union Commissioner, ministers. We are really proud to see the quality of this event, the number of ministers from Africa that are joining us. And of course, we want to express our appreciation to the government of the Gambia and also to President Adama Barrow for allowing this to take place there. The meeting was long expected because Africa is gaining a very big space in this area of sports for ethics, sports for development, sports for inclusion. And the reality is that now is happening. This was approved by all the ministers of sports in Baku, and I also recognize Mr. Gayov that is there with you, because it was felt that all of the conclusions that we have had at UNESCO in terms of sports, not as just a minor issue to address, but as a leverage, a tool for inclusion and for development, needs to happen first and foremost in Africa, through Africa, and with the African leadership. You count, of course, with the full support of the COP, and I know that the vice presidents are also there, but also with our teams, our field offices. My dear Marcel Andali has been mentioned several times. You know that he is really committed to this agenda, as well as Raluca Petersandor and Camila Ubilus. And for sure, we see it. This meeting that is happening today with this positive agenda cannot be linked from the world that we are living in, that is not privileging dialogue and cooperation, but some other means. And therefore, we need to uphold the commitment that we have on deploying sports and understand the impacts of sports. It was mentioned, we partnered with the Paris 24 Olympic and Paralympic Games. UNESCO produced a lot of research to show how this tool can be used for many different societal purposes. And we released a report that I recommend that you take a look, because it's really important in the context of Africa and African priority, where we account for the social impact of sports. And we came to some data that is just impressive. For example, a 10% in young women's participation in sports boosts college attendance and workforce engagement by 1 to 2%. This is just a very low-hanging fruit to ensure that girls continue being in school. And at the same time, capitalizing on this transformative power of sports requires intensive efforts to address persisting gender inequalities. One of the outcomes that we also addressed during the last year of very intense sports agenda was the violence against women and girls in sports. And I thank the African group, because the resolution that was adopted by our governance body would not have happened without your engagement. We know that discrimination, harassment, or violence lead girls and women to just drop out from sports in 43% of the cases, and this is just not acceptable. The other angle that we are looking at, and I know that this is very important for all of you, is the question of how do we engage young people with sports. And this is another priority that we have in UNESCO, to look at how we take them out of the streets, we take them out of lessive practices, and we open the space for more practicing of sports. And then it also brings us to the investments in education. And I know that we are also linking these two issues to ensure that this delivers much better for people. In terms of development, we know that sports also is a major investment and has a great economic potential. The global sport market was worth 480 billion in 2023 and is expected to reach 630 billion in 2028. And this is really a tool that brings us together. For all of this and to capitalize the possible contributions of sports to really bring all the benefits of sports, and as many of the speakers have said, we need a good governance of sports. We need to balance education, we balance science, balance ethics. Governments need a strong evidence-based policies to support these efforts, incorporating latest advancements such as neurotechnology, artificial intelligence. All of these things are also elements that we need to incorporate in these agendas. And we need to address this through the well-established platforms. And UNESCO gathering in Baku 110 member states, and in the Olympic conferences and Paralympic conference, a large group of ministers that came together. It's a very important venue to hold these discussions. We offer this space, and of course, this is a forum with you, member states, and particularly Africa, can converge in establishing shared priorities, exchange best practices, and create coherent frameworks for and through sports. And we are pleased to see that this decision, of course, Africa is a priority for UNESCO, but it was also mentioned, as I said, in the MINEP's 7 outcome document to really foster and push for a very strong African agenda. And therefore, we are seeing how the leadership of Africa is emerging in these collaborative efforts, and particularly the substance of this conference in the field of sports values, ethics, and integrity, and particularly through the Anti-Doping Convention and also through our initiative on the Fit for Life sports for UNESCO. Africa currently chairs the Anti-Doping Convention Conference of the Party, and I really want to thank our dear friend for his commitment, Matar Bar, for all what he's doing and what we are going to achieve this year. 20 years of the convention, and I hope I will be meeting all of you in the context of the COP10, not only because we need a very strong representation of Africa, but because we also have very concrete outcomes that we need your support for. 20 years is super important to reaffirm the importance of the convention as a unique tool internationally to improve the governance of the sports ecosystem in this sense. And we need to deliver on the clearer definition of responsibilities and duties. We need to reaffirm our commitment on the financing of the convention, the fund. I know that African countries are really committed, and even with the not extraneous contributions, you can hold others accountable to do exactly what you do, which is to support the fund, to support the dispute resolution mechanism, and to support all of the issues that we are proposing to you in the 20th anniversary. But we also have the greatest stories last year happening. Côte d'Ivoire exemplified African leadership in sports integrity through the Concorde pour l'adhésion nationale. We call it Cannes de Quartier. This is in French, but it's the neighborhood games, because we're just reproducing it. It's a grassroots initiative fostering youth employment and community cohesion to secure the social legacy of the African Cup of Nations. In this spirit, we're also working with Guinea in promoting sports integrity, reforming their national anti-doping system, and building on recent global assessment that will serve as a model for both regional and international efforts. But we're working with so many other countries. I will give you some data that really get us very excited. And we need to maintain and sustain this momentum and leadership. And therefore, this very important conference that the Gambia is hosting becomes one of the leading examples of African leadership. As the second greatest beneficiary region of the Anti-Doping Fund, Africa has shown a strong desire to fortify its strong integrity capacities. Over 70 context-specific interventions, 70, supported by the fund in Africa, have generated proven results, enhancing a sports integrity framework, policies, training, and tools across the continent. The convention monitoring system, we call it the ADG logic, has provided important insights into the progress being made, and this is going to be reported at the COP20, and we're really proud of having achieved all these milestones. Although nearly half of the African state parties still report challenges in effectively implementing the convention, with the support of UNESCO and the leadership of our team there, the region is rapidly building up capacities for national and international coordination. In the past 6 years, the number of African state parties that were unable to submit national reports has dropped significantly, from 50% to 25%, and now we have only 15%. Of course, we don't want to have a single country that is not able to report back to the convention, but at the end, this progress, I have not seen it in many fields, actually in any other area of work. This impressive progress highlights Africa's growing capacity for effective coordination at both national and international levels, supported by UNESCO commitment and all these interventions that the fund provides with. It's essential to keep this momentum going. Better reporting leads to better data, and better data allows to make smarter decisions to have real impact, because this is what we are aiming at. And we remain deeply committed to the Africa as a priority group, providing customized training and resources to strengthen sports integrity across the regions. As I mentioned too, the programs like the Fit for Life are making also a difference by improving national sports policies, boosting grassroots representation, enhancing public health, and building stronger, more united communities. African leadership in this area is undeniable. And these conference outcomes, the fact that you are there, the fact that you are partnering and supporting UNESCO like no other region, really tells a lot, and we need to capitalize for bringing this message to the world when we get together in the COP10. And now is the time to double down on these successes, as I said, and create a future where sports continue to inspire, unite, empower people everywhere. And my call to you is to continue strengthening the convention. Deliver on the program that you agreed in COP9, deliver and support the open-ended working group that is looking at the capacities and the bottlenecks and the limits, and try to really unleash the potential of the convention, because unleashing the potential of the convention means unleashing the potential of sports to build more inclusive societies. I really count on you on that one. And in this spirit of synergy between the global and national efforts, I call on African decision makers to renew their engagement for change in sports values, ethics, and integrity, and what has been said, of course, by the Mr. Vice President of the Gambia. And at the national level, I encouraged African countries to adopt measures for improved coordination guided by clear frameworks and for strengthened governance rooted in the principles of the Convention. We believe here at UNESCO that sports ministers should be in the kitchen cabinet, because you bring so much good to your countries, you bring many investments, so many outcomes for people. It really needs to be much better accounted. Just by looking at how much we can reduce health expenditures, it really means a lot. And how do we support the young people, which is the highest priority of the continent. Africa must back its belief in sports' transformative impact with meaningful investments, particularly in the anti-doping fund, to drive regional and international harmonization of integrity sports, but also in calling all other regions to really chip in and contribute to UNESCO's work. And therefore, nothing else to say than a big thanks to the Gambia President, to the Gambia Vice President that is there with us, to the Minister of Sports, to all of you that came together. Count on UNESCO, count on us to really make sure that sports deliver all of its magic for your own development and more inclusive societies. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much, Madam Gabriela Ramos, for that statement. And yes, indeed, we've been looking forward to welcoming you in the Gambia, but again, we understand the tightness of your schedules. We look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you. Moving on, we would now want to invite our Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development at the African Union, Her Excellency, Madam Minata Samate, to deliver her statement.
Excellences, Monsieur Mohamed Diallo, vice-président de la République de Gambie, mon frère Bakari Badji, ministre de la Jeunesse, des Sports
of Youth
de la République
and
de
Sports
Gambie,
of the Republic of the Gambia.
mon frère
My brother
Matar
Ba,
président de la 9e
chairperson
session de la
of the
conférence
9th
des États
session
partis à la
of the
Convention
Conference of Parties
internationale
to
contre le dopage dans le sport
UNESCO's
de l'UNESCO.
International Convention Against Doping in Sport.
Mon autre frère
Brother
Marcelin
Marcelin
et les ministres
and
que je remercie,
honorable
les ministres africains
ministers,
qui sont là.
honorable
Merci pour
ministers from
votre
Africa
présence.
who are here. Thank you for your
Je
presence.
tiens à dire aussi
I would
merci
also like to
à
say a special
l'ensemble
thank
des participants
to
qui viennent
all
qui ne viennent pas de notre
the
continent.
participants who are
Et je salue
here
en passant mon frère
outside
Rodney
Africa.
Douada
Rodney Douada,
et
also my
tous
wine,
les
my mind, my
distingués
brother, as
participants
well as all
à cette
the
importante
distinguished
réunion
participants
qui
who are
nous
participating
réunit
in this
aujourd'hui
important meeting
à
that is
Banjul.
bringing
Je
us
disais à
here
son
today
Excellence, Monsieur
in
le
Banjul. I was saying,
vice-président,
Your
Banjul a
Excellency,
une
Vice
particularité, c'est dans
Banjul
mon cœur
Vice
parce que
President,
c'est ici que j'ai commencé
Gambia
ma carrière
is
en tant que
very
diplomate.
dear to
Il
me
y a
because this is where I started my
plusieurs
career
décennies de cela.
as a
Merci
diplomat
beaucoup,
some decades ago.
Monsieur le
Thank you,
vice-président.
Honorable Vice
First
President.
of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, the government, and the people of the Gambia for the warm welcome and very fraternal welcome that has given to us since our arrival in the beautiful city of Banjul. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to address this distinguished gathering at the occasion of the Regional Ministerial Meeting theme, Enhancing Africa's Sport Governance, Fostering Inter-Regional Cooperation and Governance for Sport Value, Ethics and Integrity. This meeting today is central to ensure effective communication and coordination of ideas and action between stakeholders, particularly the minister in charge of sport of Africa. Today's meeting provides us also a good opportunity for reminding ourselves of our responsibilities under the international convention and amplify this convention, its intention, objective and expectation. Distinguished participants, the government of the Republic of Ghana under the leadership of my brother, Minister Mustafa Yusuf, former Minister of the Youth Sport of Ghana, organized the 30th edition of the African Games. This was in Accra from 8 to 23 March 2024, attended by many African athletes, more than 7,000 athletes and officials from 53 countries that has competed in 29 disciplines and during the game. In the margin of this game, ladies and gentlemen, the African Union organized the first high-level forum on anti-doping under the theme African Games and Clean Sport toward building the Africa we want on 7 March 20 in margin of Ghana Games. Member states, thank you to you, all member states, they are committed themselves to adherence to the UNESCO International Convention Against Doping in Sport. The international treaty provides us anti-doping legal frameworks and measures for a sustained and clean sport industry. Ladies and gentlemen, sport significantly contributes toward the accomplishment of the African Union Agenda 2063. Are you to say that this agenda is our Quran and Bible as the African Union continent? This agenda is a concrete and implementable framework with a clear vision of the Africa we want, with 7 aspirations Our strategic framework promotes a peaceful, prosperous Africa based on inclusive economic growth and social development and cohesion through Pan-Africanism and a strong cultural identity. It is for this reason, ladies and gentlemen, that the African Union Commission is resolute to work with all stakeholders. UNESCO, thank you to UNESCO, WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, the government, the sport movement, and many other stakeholders to devise mechanisms that promote innovative awareness and advocacy campaign to draw attention to healthy practices and curb doping. The African Union also is committed to support the provision of an ecosystem that promotes sport values, integrity, and effective delivery and safe, inclusive, equitable, and sustainable sports in Africa. Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, distinguished participant, as we are still in January, I will wish all of you a prosperous and peaceful new year for all of us and for our beloved continent. I would like to finish my speech to convey the warm greetings of His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, chairperson of the African Union Commission, who wishes us a fruitful deliberation, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Excellency, Madam Mineta, for that great statement, of course, for joining us here in Banjul. We also have the representative of the ECOWAS, the Economic Committee of West African States, of course, which Gambia is part of. And here, representing them is Ms. Maïta Lily French. We will want to invite her to make a statement on behalf of ECOWAS.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Honorable Vice President, the President of COP9, Mr. Mataba, the Executive Secretary of the UNESCO Convention Against Anti-Doping, Marceline Dali, Honorable Minata Samate Sesuma, the AU Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development. I hope Ms. Gabriela Ramos, she might be still with us. I recognize her as well. Honorable Ministers, representatives from sports ministries and anti-doping agencies from across Africa, distinguished participants, members of the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen. I would first of all wish to extend my congratulations to the government of the Gambia for hosting this vital meeting. Such fora are needed to address the complex issues such as sports governance. It is indeed a privilege for me to address this gathering of visionary leaders united in our shared commitment to strengthen the governance of sports in Africa. I extend my gratitude to the organizers for prioritizing this critical dialogue on fostering interregional cooperation and promoting sports values, ethics, and integrity. Indeed, the partnership between UNESCO and ECOWAS goes beyond sports into a wide variety of areas covering the mandate of both institutions. In this same vein, ECOWAS reaffirms its commitment to the shared goal of ensuring ethical governance in sports across Africa. For many West Africans, sports represents an integral part of their lives, whether as participants, supporters, or regulators. Most communities in Africa will have some kind of sporting or gaming activity as part of communal life, whether it is football, tennis, or some traditional or cultural competitive activity around which the community will coalesce. Sport integrity, therefore, is embedded in societal development, empowering youth, promoting health, as well as interregional cooperation, cultural exchange, and unity. Good governance is the cornerstone of sustainable progress in any sector, and sport is no exception. Across Africa, we have witnessed how governance deficiencies doping, and educational gaps can give rise to corruption, scandals, match fixing, and exploitation. These issues erode trust and institutional credibility, undermine the integrity of competition, and hinder the development of athletes and organizations alike. International and regional platforms such as UNESCO, the African Union, and ECOWAS ensure closer collaboration among African countries and beyond, facilitating knowledge exchange and the coherence of sport governance frameworks regionally. Such collaboration is particularly indispensable in view of the opportunities offered by numerous upcoming and globally visible sporting events. For example, the Dakar 2026 Youth Olympic Games will present a critical moment, allowing African nations to showcase their potential on the global stage. In addition, following the official submission of Rwanda's bid last December, the African continent may host the Formula One World Championship, the first time since 1993 when it was held in Johannesburg. These events are not merely occasions for national or regional pride and international visibility. By strengthening sports governance, we can build institutions that safeguard the values of sport, demonstrate commitment to protect athletes' rights, and ensure equitable access to opportunities. We can also foster public confidence, attract greater investment, and use sport as a tool for social cohesion and economic growth. African countries must seize their chance boldly and work together, particularly through intergovernmental platforms, to advocate for similar opportunities in the future. By uniting to create an enabling environment for major sporting events, Africa can solidify its role as a dynamic player in the global sports arena. Pooling resources will be instrumental to the bridging of governance and technical gaps, while regional networks will ensure consistent policies and methodologies. In this regard, I am pleased to note that during the National Youth Forum held in Dakar last November, the ECOWAS Youth and Sport Development Center presented a $300,000 check contributing towards the 2026 Dakar Youth Olympic Games. These funds will guarantee the visibility and success of the first Olympic Games ever hosted in Africa, establishing a strong precedent and encouraging greater and more durable investments in Africa's sports. However, an even higher level of investment in sports and sport integrity initiatives will be necessary to ensure our collective vision. Our goal is for Africa to become a model of values, ethics, and sports integrity through strong public governance, synergetic interregional partnerships, and broad engagement from public and private sector. Now is the time to renew our dedication to ethical sports governance in pursuit of this worthwhile ambition. At the heart of our discussion lies a commitment to uphold values that make sport a powerful force for good. Integrity is not just a requirement for fair competition. It is a moral imperative that reflects our broader aspirations for justice and equality. Honorable Vice President, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting provides a vital platform for sharing best practices, aligning strategies, and creating mechanisms for accountability. Our collective efforts today will determine the future of sports in Africa. Let us approach this task with a sense of urgency and purpose. The decisions we make and the partnerships we forge will not only shape the integrity of our sports institutions, but also the hopes and dreams of millions of young Africans who see sport as a pathway to a better future. Together, we can lay the foundation for a united African approach to governance in sport, one that resonates with the shared values of integrity, respect, and excellence. ECOWAS stands ready to partner and contribute to the achieving of these shared goals. Together, we can transform sports governance in Africa and inspire a new era of ethical leadership and excellence. Let us seize this moment to build a legacy of integrity that future generations will inherit with pride. I thank you all and wish you fruitful discussions, which I am convinced will lead to concrete outcomes for the future of sports in Africa and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador Mineta, and our regards to ECOWAS. Oh, sorry. Ms. Maita. My apologies. Well, okay, so we're moving on. Your Excellency would be the next speaker. Before that, I will want to Again, in addition to ECOWAS and AU, we have in our midst representative from other agencies that would have the opportunity to make their remarks later. We have Mr. Rodney, who is the Africa Director for the World Anti-Doping Agency. And as well, we have the Chief Executive Officer of the United States Anti-Doping Agency, Mr. Travis, who are in our midst. And we want to, of course, recognize and welcome them here. Of course, we have majority African ministers, but we have our brother from outside Africa, the Minister Farid from Azerbaijan, who also has been a friend to quite a number of us, and we are glad to have also welcomed him in the Gambia to join us in this important meeting. Mr. Farid, welcome again. Your Excellency, we would now want to have the pleasure of inviting you to deliver the opening statement. But of course, His Excellency the Vice President is accompanied by a few other colleague ministers, the Minister of Information and Minister of Information of the Gambia, and the Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, and the Minister of Transports, Works and Infrastructure, and as well as the Minister of Defense. They are seated at the back, and of course we have our regional governors also here. Government, again, like I said earlier, have committed to support this program, and that has been demonstrated by the attendance of my colleague ministers in this, and we want to thank you for that. Excellency, it's our honor to invite you to deliver the opening statement of this meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. The Honourable Minister of Youth and Sport, on order, I also recognize other honourable ministers here present. The COP9 coordinator, Excellency Matarba. Also recognize Assistant Director General of UNESCO, Ms. Gabriela Ramos, who spoke earlier. The African Union's Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development, Her Excellency Ambassador Minata Samate Sesuma. The ECOWAS representative in the Gambia, Ms. Miata Lady French. I also recognize the Mr. Marcelin Dali from the International Convention Against Doping, honorable ministers from the African continent, and of course, the honorable minister from Azerbaijan that's mentioned earlier on, distinguished delegates, members of the press, all other protocols duly and respectfully observed. On behalf of His Excellency President Adama Barrow, it is my honor to welcome you all to this Interregional Africa Ministerial Meeting on Doping in Sport. In particular to all our prominent guests who traveled to join us here. I say on behalf of the entire government and people of the Gambia, welcome to the smiling coast of Africa. The Gambia is proud to host this important ministerial meeting whose theme is Applicas, strengthening sport governance in Africa, fostering interregional cooperation and convergence for sport value, ethics, and integrity. This theme is an open reminder that sport must be conducted in a fair atmosphere, and it flags the need for collective action to eradicate cheating. The message is that no matter how it is perpetrated, be it through illegal substances or other measures to win or sustain dominance, cheating must not be condoned. Such tactics are unfair and therefore contravene the principles of decency and sportsmanship. The theme also drives the point home, especially to policymakers, law enforcers, athletes, and all other stakeholders, that although sports could be intensely competitive, every sport must be clean and fair to be considered truly sportive. This makes it relevant to applaud the COP9 Bureau and the UNESCO Social and Human Sciences Department for collaborating with my government through our Ministry of Youth and Sports to convene this high-level meeting with the objective of recognizing the essence of values, ethics, and integrity in sports for appropriate follow-up action. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you work to chart the way forward to strengthen cooperation and collaboration amongst yourself and your noble partners, I assure you of the Gambia's support and, by extension, the commitment of the continent's political leadership. Combating the menace of doping is such an enormous task that no single country or agency can shoulder it exclusively. It requires continual networking, programming, research, and improvement of anti-doping policies and regulations. Correspondingly, African countries and their partners must strengthen cooperation at both policy and operational levels to educate and protect our athletes more zealously. I believe that every African nation should commit itself to this task and translate such commitment into sustained and decisive interventions aimed at imbuing sports with the highest degree of discipline, integrity, and excellence. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as party to the Anti-Doping Convention, the Gambia is most willing to support the work of the Anti-Doping Secretariat and other agencies, such as Africa Regional Anti-Doping Organization, REDO. Hosting this meeting is evidence of our stand on this matter. We subscribe to the values and ethics that underline all sporting disciplines. As a result, we will continue to endeavor promoting and holding competitions that are free from illicit drugs or performance-enhancing substances that give athletes an unfair edge over their fellow competitors. Through the Ministry of Youth and Sports, we launched a national anti-doping platform in May 2022. This brought together various stakeholders to raise awareness on and promote compliance with the Anti-Doping Convention, WADA regulations, and testing procedures. Today, the Gambia is one of the African countries that remain compliant with the WADA codes. Looking ahead, we have a national sport bill that contains a section on doping. Among other issues, it provides for legislation to dually give our national platform legitimacy and power to function effectively. Once enacted, this legal framework will reinforce the 2023 to 2033 African Union Policy Framework for Sustainable Development in Sport in Africa, which enjoins African countries to promote and prioritize clean sports. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as you deliberate to share ideas, explore cooperation opportunities, and devise strategies and plans to minimize the incidence of doping and cheating in sports among both amateur and professional athletes, I entreat you to remember that young people need sufficient knowledge and resilient skills to avoid banned substances. Such knowledge and skills can be acquired only if decision makers, practitioners, and enforcement agents skillfully focus on raising awareness, sharing knowledge, and adhering strictly to the rules that govern healthy competition. I hope that one of the outcomes of this ministerial meeting will be a call for more robust educational programs that target young athletes in our various countries, as well as identification of retired African athletes to serve as anti-doping ambassadors. These ambassadors can take the message further and engage those youths outside your reach. Honorable Ministers, distinguished members of the Bureau, some of you may know that in May 2024, I assumed the chairmanship of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation for a 3-year term. I pledge to leverage this position to further promote clean sports in the Muslim Ummah. This is especially relevant, noting that the OIC is preparing to host its 6th Islamic Solidarity Games in Saudi Arabia later this year. These quadrennial games bring together Muslim countries to compete in various sports, thereby promoting integrity and unity in diversity. Before concluding, let me reiterate my call for the 9th Bureau, the African Ministers of Sports, and all other stakeholders to use this forum to articulate our position as a continent. This should reflect an uncompromising emphasis on strengthening efforts to combat doping through a comprehensive strategy for sub-regional and regional responses that would best address the specific challenges of Africa. Beyond this meeting, I hope you will continue to network and cooperate in sharing information, knowledge, and expertise so that the African continent will not only maintain a common position on sports, but also strengthen capacity to curb doping. Our goal is preferably to have a continent where performance in sports is outstanding, excellence is earned fairly, and the integrity of athletes and officials is safely protected. I know our honored guests that your stay in the Gambia will be short, but please take time to enjoy the beautiful beaches and other tourist attractions that the Smiling Coast has to offer. I wish you fruitful deliberations and look forward to the next steps at the level of the African Union and the subsequent implementation of the final resolution. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the 2025 Interregional Africa Ministerial Meeting on Doping in Sports officially open. I thank you for your kind attention.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for that statement, and do extend our appreciation to His Excellency President Barrow for his support and commitment to the success of this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, we would now end the opening ceremony here, and we would take a short break to go out to take a group photo. And the organization is such that we'll have a few photos, one with the high table and the commissioners and the ambassadors, and then we would have the other one with all the ministers, and another one with all the other delegates. So, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, we are all invited outside. After the photos, we'll have to come back, or a short tea break, and then we'll come back to continue the rest of the proceedings under the chairpersonship of the president or the chairman of the COP9 Bureau. Thank you.